The road to success is rarely a straight line. It's full of twists and turns, detours, redirections, hills and valleys. So join us on the path to success as we explore people's personal journeys. Come be encouraged, informed, and empowered to reach your dreams. Hello and welcome to the Path to Success podcast. And I've been looking forward to this episode of the podcast. Our special guest today, like me, he loves people. He loves to talk. We love each other.
Absolutely.
Dr. Jim Louro, welcome to the podcast.
My honor. I was so excited when you asked me to do this. I've been watching your episodes each week, and I'm like, geez, that would be nice if Boris maybe asked me to do one.
Well, you were on the list, man. And as we go through today's podcast, you have been encouraging just to me as a business person, you know, as a father, community person. So this is going to be a great session. And I guess let's just start with where we met. Our daughters played basketball together at St. Rose High School in Delmar, New Jersey.
Yes.
But not only that, right? They played AAU basketball together. So the two of us, we've traveled the country together.
I think somewhere in the United States that referees have a picture of us on the wall somewhere saying, "Don't let these guys in this gym."
Wanted.
Well, I wore this shirt tonight, and because of that, this is the Best of Maryland shirt. One of our daughter's championships, their senior year.
Yes. And we never got kicked out of a game, so we stayed on the right side of the line.
Never got technicals, never been kicked out of a game. And every now and then they used to have a chant, Dr. Louro, too.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you know what? Our daughters did win state championships. So here's just a funny story with that, right? I ran track, right? Played football. You played world-class level rugby. So I won a state championship as a track athlete, never as a football athlete. So my daughter's like, look, I got a ring, you know, you don't have a ring. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, trust me, I've heard it many times in this house. You know, I did get a couple things, but, you know, what they did and how our daughters worked together. I mean, they're one of the top teams in St. Rose history from their freshman year to their senior year. I think they're like maybe 115 and 9 or 10. I mean, just amazing record overall. And really the blessing of meeting someone like you and your family and being at games with my dad, your mother, my mother when she was alive.
Wow.
Just wonderful.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. And so first, you know, tell us about your business. You have a successful chiropractic practice. So tell us about, you know, your business first.
So one of the things I feel is that, you know, we change lives. What we do is we change lives. We're not a cookie cutter adjustment, you know, boom, 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 see you later. We're trying to take people in. We're trying to change how they look at things. We want to make them body conscious. Body conscious is the fact of like motion. The body needs motion. So what we do is in over the years, I've dealt with world-class athletes. I was the team doctor for the US rugby team way back when. I traveled with the United States Life University, which was a Division I in the national championships the last 7 years, and won 4 of them. And I was with them for a bunch of them, being the team doctor and an alumni from that school. Yes. So I was blessed, you know, I was blessed to be a part of that. But we try to take what we do with world-class athletes and bring it in, you know, professional football players, professional baseball players, hockey players, soccer players. We try to bring that into our practice with everyone. And we, you know, I've had a patient who was 101 years old, you know, which was amazing, you know, and you go through your life, 32 years in practice. And I think the difference is we try to put our love into our patients. Sure. You know, bedside manner, you always hear, oh, this guy's that's everything we are. I think what we do as chiropractors is a service profession, and we give a service. We're bringing the function back to the body. Like chiropractic is about the brain, the central nervous system. Everyone thinks it's popping this, popping that. So one of my pet peeves is we don't crack anything. Squirrels crack nuts. We adjust specific segments of the vertebral column, reducing nervous interference from the brain to the body and out. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. But at the same time, we do full body work, because when athletes come in, they may have someone called me this year the athlete whisperer, and I'm like, oh, it was a wonderful thing, because I had never heard that one before. It was a wonderful compliment, and it was just something, because being an athlete like yourself, like over the years what it takes, how you knew what you had to do for your daughter to get her to be that top level, a Division I basketball player, which may be 1%, 2% of the entire high school basketball players will ever play Division I.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that's amazing.
And both, well, two of your daughters and one of my daughters, they were all scholarship athletes, also, yes, and excellent students.
Yes, unbelievable. I could say that, my daughter is at chiropractic school. She just had a 3.9. Jen is graduating with honors, and she's already started in the 4 years. She says she's already started her master's program.
That's great.
So it's, she's doing criminal justice. My two older boys, well, we're a chiropractic family. I'm one of four, in my family.
So that's what was always, just something. One, I knew you had your own practice.
Yes.
But you had three other brothers that were all chiropractors.
Yes, over the years.
I mean, did you have to go into the business? Did they persuade you? Did you all go to the same school? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it was always about competition. Once I was better than everyone else, it was already done. No, really what it came down to was my oldest brother, Joe. I unfortunately, over the couple of years, over the last 10 years or so, I've lost siblings. And actually 27 years, one of my brothers just passed, but he was an unbelievable chiropractor, loved what he did. And my older brother is no longer in practice, but he's still involved in the health career. And he's an entrepreneur, and really he started the way, he paved the way. He and my brother Joe and John went to Sherman Chiropractic of South Carolina.
Okay.
Now, me being different, they went to St. John Vianney. I went to Freehold Township. It was, you had to set your own, you had to set your own path. My path led me to Life University, Life Chiropractic College at the time. And my younger brother followed in that path, and we graduated from Life. They graduated from Sherman in South Carolina.
And so I'm one of three boys, and is that healthy competition, positive,
I seen the brothers dance. I seen you and your brothers go at it before. Oh yeah, you come into our house, and when Judy, my wife, is one of 11. Okay, she's one of 11 children, 10 girls and 1 boy, and you never hear a peep in that house. When she came to my house, you would think she thought there was 20 people in there. It was just my immediate family, 4 boys and my sister, arguing or talking, and it's amazing. My house has become that house. My children. We're all loud talkers. We're kind of the loud family, but it's something we enjoy. It's something we engage in. Competition. The girls are competitive. The boys are competitive. And that's what I think life has a lot to do. Like athletes and being an athlete and being a part of team is what life is. That transpositions into what we do in life.
Community, family, supporting one another. And I like what you said about we change people's lives, right? Today in so many industries, it's about being customer focused, and your industry is all based upon that. And then I think you're saying your practice, that's the key and the focus for you guys.
So I have 5 chiropractors working for me right now, and I give my cell phone out to all of my patients.
Wow.
And they use it. Trust me, they use it. And you know what? But it's a part of the service that we do. I could tell you that times where you have to push your cell phone away, because you do experience a little bit of burnout if you're giving too much. Like what we do, Boris, in practice is an exchange of energy. I mean, that's so important. Like when I'm putting, God talked about, laying the hands on people. That's what we do. We're exchanging our life force, our life flow to bring to someone else. And our intention is to help them to get better. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. If you ask me, one of the things that they lost in medical field is they don't touch. Everything we do is touch. So, I mean, that's so important. Like I've talked to medical doctors who are friends of mine who said they had to go to seminars to learn how to touch or how to learn empathy. And empathy, boy, being an empath, I mean, what we do sometimes, we absorb so much energy. And over this past pandemic year, I could tell you, we absorbed a lot of stress off of people.
Sure.
And that's just, changing lives. We're trying to bring them to, but we want we don't want to, like you said before, you mentioned something I thought was interesting. We're from the helicopter parent, society or level or whatever, we've always been that way. We have 6 kids and done that. So with our patients, we try to be the helicopter in the beginning, then we try to release them to where they have to be responsible for themselves. We want to make them what we call body conscious. Body conscious that means, when you have to stretch, when you have to do this, when you have to come in and see me. But we want to get you to that point where it's a maintenance care. That's
you're educating your patients when you say
Perfect.
Body conscious.
We were taught in school to give, to do, to love, to serve. That was our motto in school. Okay, and also doctor means teacher. So we're teaching people to be body conscious, like athletes especially. We see biomechanics of someone running, and I could say, well, I'm in church sometimes and I'm sitting there watching people, and my wife has to give me the quick little, what are you doing? I'm like, well, the guy's walking, like, I could help that guy. It's just who I am. It's what I've done. You grow up and you're like, if you find something that you love to do, it's never a day of work.
Yeah. So I want to segue just 1 minute because the intro to the podcast says the path to success is rarely a straight line. It's twisters, turns, and ups and downs. So initially on a surface level, you can say, oh, he had 4 brothers that was in the business. He was going to come into the business. He had to go in the business. He had to be successful. But in talking with you, I understand that there was a major incident in your life where you question, would you ever be at this point? Take us back to there. That accident.
Everything you have are speed bumps in life. I mean, my practice was booming at the time. I was in Spring Lake. I was probably seeing about 230 patients a week alone, just me. And I was more in my prime then. I didn't have my fingers weren't broken up and feeling what I was playing rugby at the time. But that really was my avenue, being the athlete. And we drew patients in from that. People want to be around. I guess there's such a positive energy in a practice like mine and what we've tried to build with my sons working the other one. But we try to build a family environment where people feel so welcome there. Like there's no glass in my practice. You don't, glass windows. You don't come in and have to go up against a glass window. There's a front desk and you see everybody. And I'm a hugger. I could tell you, even in the pandemic, I was still hugging. I was hugging the whole time. But like what you said, there was a speed bump. I had a car accident. I had reconstructive surgery.
Now, when was this? This was when?
1999. 99, I had reconstructive spinal. Well, I'm sorry, I had the car accident, and I was training real hard at the time. I was in the middle of a good part of my rugby career, trained hard. I got hit from behind. I fractured a couple vertebrae, but I was a rugby player, so you work through pain. I was also a dad with I think at the time only 5 kids. I had 5 kids at the time. Jake wasn't
only 5?
Yeah, only 5. So you have mortgage, you have 5 kids, you have this. So you can't think of like, oh, I'm not going to work tomorrow. Gotcha. We grew up in a time. I could tell you, my father's father died when he was 7 years old, and he was a Portuguese immigrant. My grandparents. My grandmother didn't speak any English, didn't speak anything, and my father's the true American story. My grandmother cooked, she cleaned, she ironed, she did everything to help raise her 2 boys. Sure. And that was my mentality. I remember hearing those stories. I'm like, you have to work, and I have to provide for my family. And there were days I remember I would adjust people in the morning and I'd go lay down. It took me a half hour to get up. And it got to be a point where I just couldn't do it any longer. I went through almost a year and a half with 2 fractured vertebrae. And I was able to make arrangements with, selling my practice and stepping back for some time and healing. And and the healing process wasn't easy.
So wait, so you're a year and a half or so, 2 years after the accident. Is that when you got surgery?
May of 99 was the accident, and I had my surgery in March of 2001.
Wow.
Yeah, I toughed it out for a while, and I could tell you, I had given everything I had, and by the time I was done, I was spent. I was spent physically, mentally. what we do as a chiropractor, we take in what people tell us and say, okay, we're gonna do everything we can to get you better. But when you're hurting more than your patients, that empathy isn't as always easy, So it was difficult. It was a difficult time. I wrote my patients a letter. Some people tell me they still have this letter I wrote them. It was just to a point I just could no longer go on, and I knew it. And it took 2 years. I actually stopped in September of 2000, but I had the surgery in March of 2001. But from September of 2000 to that point, I swam 1.5 miles every day, close to 2 miles, just to do prehabilitation for my surgery.
So you have the surgery. What happens after that? You sold your practice. You have the surgery. Now,
so I have the surgery, and I'm all I could think about. It took approximately 4 years to recover from the surgery. I had broken ribs. I had a little blind spot in my eye. I had burns from the surgery, 4th degree burns. It was not an easy thing. It was an 8-hour surgery. And the problem is that, the anesthesiologist, you're supposed to move ahead a little bit. That didn't happen. And my head swelled from this side. It was traumatic. My brother looked at me and almost started to cry. And I'm like, I'm generally good looking, But no, all kidding aside, but it was a pretty traumatic surgery. But from that point on, I remember I came home from the hospital surgery was on a Tuesday. I came home on a Saturday. Someone had come to my house and I was taking meds at the time, and I didn't remember that they were there. And that Saturday, that point, I said, that's it. I said, from that point on, it was my main goal was to get, I threw my meds away. Okay. I was taking, like an opioid at the time. We're not knowing way in advance what opioids could possibly do. And I wasn't myself. I was like zonking out. And I'm like, I remember getting up and saying, everything I'm going to do is going to focus to get better. Not even knowing that one day I would try to come back to practice. But for the next 4 years, I worked on just training my body to get healthy. And about 4 years later, as when I think we discussed this story last week, I went down in a section of my house where I go and I kneel and I pray quietly. Like biblically, it says, don't be like the hypocrites chanting this and that. Yeah. Go and pray quietly.
Private, you're in the Lord.
Yes, and I went to my spot, man. It's a special area for me. And I knelt down and I just asked for a path. I said, God, give me a path. Like I didn't know. I said, I felt like what I did, what you had me here for, was taken away. So I asked God for that path, and man, that night I'm sitting there, I'm on my computer, my phone rings, and it's my good friend, we call him FB, but it's Father Brian Butch, and he's an unbelievable priest and a good friend of mine. And he goes, I prayed for a path that morning. Right. I said, God, show me what you want me to do. That night he calls me up, he goes, I have a classroom that's chased out 2 female teachers. It's a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but the 7th grade is really tough, and they'll be your homeroom. And I just said, I knew right then and there that was my answer. And I didn't even hesitate. I said, I'll do it. Right. I could tell you the first 2 weeks in that classroom, there were times I'm like, what the heck did I get into? I said, I can't beat these kids, but right. I could tell you, the first week I've had them put their books away, put their names up on their desk. I coached for 20 years. So you know what it's like to be around a coach. And to me, when I was a kid, I always wanted to meet that coach who was my first coach. And it was important to me to be that same kind of guy. Yeah. So when I was a teacher, I wanted to know every kid's name. When I coached a team, I had 31 kids. By the end of the first practice course, I knew every one of their names. Wow. Because that's important. It meant,
relationship.
When someone calls you Boris, when you were an athlete, or Pendergrast, it meant something to you. Yeah. I remember that, So I committed their names to memory. Every one of my students, 3 classes, 30 kids, this classroom, and you committed it to memory. I wanted to know about them, who they were. But it was little things like, hey, come in here and sit up straight. Come tuck your shirts in, discipline. It was a Catholic school to begin with. There were uniforms, but there was other things. Your hair was getting long. So by the time I got to know these kids, and it was the first parent-teacher night, there was a line at my door. The parent-teacher night, they were packing it in to see who Dr. Louro was. Yeah. And it's because I think if you approach something with a passion and love, I knew that I loved what I was doing, and those kids knew that I loved them. And that, that's what we do.
So, I didn't see this earlier, but that's right in line with what your business is, changing lives.
Yes.
Right. So now, so now you're like what, 6-8 years out of your chiropractic business? How do you come back to that? What got you back into, I'm going to go for it again?
So I was teaching for 3 years. And out of those 3 years, I was fortunate enough that I was the teacher of the year a couple of times. And I was blessed. It was a blessing because, you know what? I ate in the cafeteria with the kids. Okay. The teachers ate in the faculty room with the teachers. And it wasn't just me. Listen, it cost me big bucks because every day, hey, Doc, you got $1? You got $1? So I used to carry around $25 of singles and just hand it out. Sometimes the kids who give you $1 back, yeah, those were special kids. The other ones are just, but it was something that they knew who you were, they knew who I was because I loved what I did. I had a beautiful nun. She was just such a, there were days I remember. Now I just got a beautiful message recently from one of my students. And she told me, you don't realize the impact that you had on our lives. And I mean, that's something that gives me a little chill to remember that and a sense of pride. And you try to humble yourself in life to say, you do this because you want to change lives. Yeah. Now I have kids all over the country and they email me or text message me. And that's something that's important because I wanted to change my corner of the world. Okay. Sure. So in doing so, I taught for 3 years and then my nun was leaving. She was my, when the kids were getting bad, I'm like, all right, go see sister. Go see sister was me. That was my version of, sorry, get out of class, you're in trouble. And I would go down there. She goes, doctor, we had an integrated class. So we would walk in right down and there was a kid in our class and they called him skinny white boy. So I said, hey, skinny white boy, go grab the door. And sister goes, doctor, we don't talk like that. And I said, sister, that's what they call them. So, it was like, it was, that classroom was filled with color, filled with love, filled with everything. And it didn't mean everyone saw the people that they were, the content of that character. Yeah. That's what it was. And it was something that after 3 years, I was done with it. I really was. A new principal was coming in. I met her one time and she wasn't my cup of tea. And I was kind of doing this on a volunteer basis, but I loved it, And then it was at this point where they had actually asked me if I wanted to be principal. And I felt that was way out of my league. Right. And I stepped down and I said, no, I'm finished, but it was wonderful. Thank you. And then I started to say, okay, it was another 3-4 years of getting, at this point, I think I was out almost 8 years. Wow. Then I started to work my way to really get my fitness up to where I could I was told I would never practice again. And in my life, telling me something, probably like you can't do something now, makes me want to do it. Was that because the physicality of what you do? Okay. Yeah. The physicality, what we do. And I'm a very physical doctor. I lift weight. I mean, I've changed. I'm 57 now. Over 32 years of doing this, I'm not picking someone up and to some degree I am, but I'm not moving. I just used to move, tug, lift, put people on, I get patients. Yeah. I got patients in wheelchairs now and I still do it to some degree, but I'm not the same guy I was, 15 years ago. But to that extent, I built myself up to the point where I was ready to come back, ready to do anything physically again. Right. And I felt like I could do it. And I had people who were around me. I had guys I trained with who were Ironmen. And my dear friend, Joe Leone, and he pushed me, he goes, you got it. This is who you are. Mm. And when you hear people saying that, my family saying it, my wife saying it, I had to straighten things out with my disability policies and all that. But it really, I needed to do what I did best, who I was. And I came back after 10 years and I hung a shingle. That was it. And it was lights out. So now you were sharing with me a story about when you were looking for properties and looking for a location. And there were people who said, this place has never been busy. You don't have to worry about it. Share that little bit of the story of now getting to where you are in your business. So my current office, and we're seeing close to 200 plus patients a week in a 1,400 square foot building. Mm. And I went in there and it had a chiropractor before and it wasn't very busy. But I had a vision. Okay. I knew, I'll give you a great example. I was getting my phone number. This is how God works. I was getting my phone number And the lady's giving me, well, we have this available. And she goes, well, you can't pick your number. I said, oh yeah, you can. She goes, no, you can't. I said, well, here's the number I would like. I wanted 223-7500 because that was a Manasquan exchange. So she goes, well, that's not available. I said, well, how about 722-7500? She goes, and I said, and I need 4 numbers. She goes, well, that's not available. But wait a second. She goes, 732-722-749. 7's available. Wait, 7498's available. 7499's available, and 7500's available. And I said, that's what I want. And she goes, this has never happened before. I said, but you understand that this is a part of my plan. This is, and I told her on the phone, and this lady thinks I'm nuts. So I used to sit before my office is under construction. There's no carpet on the floor. I had one chair in there, and I visualized, Boris, I visualized me being busy, me doing what I do best and delivering chiropractic care and rehabilitative care. I had just gone through a rehabilitation of, serious spinal surgery.
In your own body.
Right. And I said, if I want to impart what I did for me onto everyone I was around. So I just visualized what my office would be, and that's what it's become. And I'm visualizing the next step, the next step of my practice, that we move into a large facility where there's a gym and where there's this, and we do more. It's a tough visualization because go ahead.
You're talking about now you're visualizing that phase.
Yes, the next step. Yeah, the next step.
Back to the athletics, right? So, this whole podcast is because of one of my books I wrote, but I have a book out there called So I Didn't Make the Pros, right?
Yes.
All city, New York football player, national champ, track runner, Rutgers football, and get to the NFL, free agent. And you on a world-class level, rugby, we visualize, we see ourselves, executing the plays, winning, making a difference. And that's so important in our athletic life. What you're saying, hey, that was a key for you in your business life.
Sports is life. I mean, it is. It really is. And a lot of people who don't realize is that great athletes or people who have succeeded in sports, team sports and individual sports, do well in mostly everything they do because they have a desire, a persistence, a determination. I mean, that's life. Sports is life. It's a reflection of what we do. Like we used to say this all the time. I think the best things I used to teach my team. I coached youth football from 6-year-old to high school, and we'd be in the middle of practice and we'd be out there in the dark and the field was lit up, but you look in the corner and there's a full moon, Boris. And I would say, hey guys, everybody over here. We go to the corner of the practice field, take off your helmets, put them under your arms, look up, take a deep breath in through your nose and blow it out your mouth. In through your nose, out your mouth. And they say, what are we doing, coach? I'm like, you're taking time to smell the roses. I said, it's a beautiful night. We're on a football field. Yeah. It doesn't get much better than this for these kids. And they loved it. This was something. And I wanted them to know that it's important in life to take time to smell the roses, and that whole thing, we've translated that into our careers. You have with your family, I have with my family. I try to, it's not an easy thing. It's a tough world out here. There's a lot of things going on that are very difficult on families. There's a very difficult on careers, and it takes that faith and perseverance.
So, that's a great segue to kind of our wrap up, right? Which is, what would you say to, our audience? What would you say to your younger self? I mean, what are you imparting into your adult children, right? These principles that got you on this path to success.
A work ethic is so important, and to be available. Like when I first started, it's different for them. My kids are coming out, they're working my hours. My hours are much more than when I first came out. My hours were Monday through Saturday, and I played rugby on Saturday. So I'd see patients from about 9 to 11 leave and go play rugby. And I'd come back in on Monday with a black eye. My patients loved that part of it, but it was about, I had a 24-hour emergency line. I had, my patients had access to me. That's how you build. You build because you're available. You build because my patients knew I loved what I did. I loved them, and I was putting that into them. You filter out those patients that yeah, but I'm just here for this. I'm just here for that. I'm like, well, you're really in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unfortunately, we get busy. Sometimes people have to wait, but it's nowhere near. It's not the 2 hours, 3 hours you might be at a cardiologist or a GP. It might be an hour, might be 35 minutes, it might be 10. But when you get into that room with me or one of my doctors, it's going to be present time consciousness. Mm-hmm. That means where I am at that point is the most important place to be. I'm not thinking about the football field. I'm not thinking about, well, sometimes I would think about the basketball games that we had a big, you remember those, but I'm thinking about that person in front of me right there. And we're a service profession. That's important. People need to know that you care about them. We call up our new patients after we see them. I was talking to a new patient today who had to, first we're changing their spine. They had some soreness, like anyone who's ever had braces. When they change your teeth, boy, you get sore. But they need to know this is a part of the process. I'm different. Like when I was I was a doctor at 25. At 25, I wanted to change the world in one visit. I tell them now it takes a little bit more than one visit, but I would try to do so much. And that's where I try to teach my younger associates, give them what you can that day, but let them know it's a process. You don't have to do everything on one visit. We don't have to do it's time, it's caring, and it's a process, and they have to be involved.
Wow. Dr. Jim, I want to say thank you for this.
It's unbelievable.
It's been awesome.
You and I, we could talk for hours with our children, and, we've brushed the surface, but hopefully I've been part of it. And I'm so honored to be here with you because I love being around you. You love life. And that's something that attracted each of us to each other.
Vice versa. Now, I know you never did the race. We're supposed to have a race in our 50s.
Listen, we're getting there. I think we promised each other we'd have that race. I'm telling you, I'm waiting till one of us has a hip surgery. Then we can.
Our audience, I would thank you for joining the podcast today. Dr. Jim Louro, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure, Boris. It's always a pleasure. It's an honor to be your friend. God bless you.
Great day.